this video, we're going to go ahead and create our player turn left and turn right animations that will be controlled based on user input. This is where we're going to dive a little bit deeper into the Unity animation system. So let's get started. Let's go ahead and drag our player into the scene. All right, you can do so by dropping in the scene or the hierarchy. And here's our player. So what's going to happen here is right now we can move left and right. But when we move left or move right, we want to complement that behavior with an animation that says basically rotate left or rotate right, or if we're not doing anything, then go back to frame 1. So what we need to do is we're going to create several animations for our player. We're going to have an idle animation, which is just us sitting here. We're going to have a turn left animation, and then we're going to have a turn right animation. So let's go ahead and create those animations. While the player is selected, let's go ahead and hop to our animation, create, and let's go ahead and create our turn left one first. So here, Galaxy Shooter, animations, and let's call it player underscore turn underscore left. So this is our turn left animation. So here we have a player turn left folder. Drag all 9 of these frames inside the Unity animation view so that we can map out our keyframes here. And if we go ahead and look at this, you'll see here that the player is constantly just rotating here. Okay, so to fix that, the reason why that's happening is because the animation is looping. So let's go ahead and click on our player. You'll see here that it now has an animator component with a player controller. And if we open that up, we can see here's our player turn left animation. And then what we need to do now is, before we forget, let's hop over to our animation for player left turn, and let's turn loop time off because we don't want to constantly loop the animation. Let's go ahead and create our next animation. Hop back over to your scene, select your player. There's a drop down arrow here next to the current animation that says player turn left. Drop that down, create new clip. This is going to be player underscore turn underscore right. And we'll go ahead and we'll do the exact same thing. Let's grab our sprites for turning right, 0 through 9 or 0 through 8 here. Grab those 9 frames, put them in. Go ahead and test it out. We got our rotation there. And like we did with the others, just save your scene just to be safe. Click on the animation and turn looping off. All right, last but not least, we need an idle animation. So what's the frame that we go to when we're not rotating? The frame we're going to move to is turn right 0 or left 0. It doesn't matter. The first frame of the animation is what we want. So let's go ahead, select the player, drop down the animation list, create new clip, and call this player underscore idle. Save. Let's drag it in there. Save your scene. And let's go ahead and apply the prefab on the player. And if you go down to the animator component, we have this controller. Double click the controller, and we have all 3 of our animation clips now in that controller. So what we want here is for the default animation when the game starts is to be idle. So if we right click the player idle, we can set as layer default state. That means as soon as the game starts or as soon as that object becomes active, it will then transition to our player idle state. What we need to do now is we need to create logic for when to go from player idle, player turn right to player turn left. So for instance, when should we turn right? Well, when we're idle and we hit the right key, we should turn right, right? So here we make transition to turn right. And what we can do now is we can click on this arrow transition and we can create some simple if-then logic for when should we move to player turn right. So we should move to player turn right when when we hit the right key, right? Well, the animator component here allows us to create logic for variable situations. So if we hop down to parameters, we can create a parameter by hitting this plus in a bool type. We'll call this turn underscore right. And we'll create another one for turn underscore left. So go to the plus, so go to parameters, plus bool, turn left. So we're creating parameters here to go with our animations that are going to control the logic for when to do this. And we'll control that through code. So here we are in the player idle. When should we go to player turn right? We go to player turn right and we have a conditions list here which is empty. Go ahead and hit plus. We turn right if turn right is true. So we can keep that just as is. Now, when do we go back to idle? We go back to idle if turn right is false. So here, add a condition, turn right false. So player idle transitions to player turn right when the turn right is true, and player turn right turns to player idle when turn right is false. So let's go ahead and do the exact same thing for our player turn left. Here we'll have our condition for our left turn, which is turn left is true, and we'll have a condition to go back to idle by make transition, right click make transition, click on your animation, select that transition from player turn left to idle, and we'll do that when our player left turn is equal to false. Okay, so we have our visual state behavior for the flow of our animation. What we want to do now is look at creating this logic through code to actually sync into the Unity animation system and control those animations. The first thing we need to do is create a script dedicated to our player's animation. So let's go ahead and create a new script and call it C# script player, we'll say player animation, capital A. Okay, this is our player animation script, which will be handling all of the animation for our player controls. Click on your player, add the player animation script to the player. Well, it will be added as a new component, and let's go ahead and double click it. Let's open this up, and the first thing we need to do in order to use the animations associated with our player is we need to access the animator component, because the animator component has the controller which has all of our animations in it. So first thing first, create a handle to the animator component. So let's go ahead and just organize our script up a bit. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is get our handle to the animator component. So we'll say private animator, and then we'll call it underscore anim. And here we'll say underscore anim equals get component animator. That gets our component. Now we have access to all of the animations. So in our update method here, what is the logic that we need to create here? The logic is if W key is pressed down or left arrow key is down, what needs to happen? We need to set that bool in our animator to true. Okay, so when we go left, that bool, we have that flag, right? We created those visual conditions. We need to set that bool to true so that it can play that animation. Also, what we'll need to do is if W key is lifted up or the left arrow key is up, because this is actually going to transition us back to our idle. So let's go ahead and look at how we actually use those, how do we access those parameters and animations. So real quickly, I want to open up the scripting reference for Animator Unity. So here we go, scripting API for the animator component. And inside here, we have some methods that are really important. We created some bools, right? Well, what we can do is we can set bool values. And by doing that, we can say here, set bool and the name of the animation, and then you give it a value. This is what's going to trigger those conditions. So by using animator component.setBool, we're gonna go ahead and control the logic. So here we have an if statement, right? So here for our if left press, so if input dot get key down, and if it's keycode dot w, or, which is these parallel lines here, or input dot get key down left arrow, and I believe it's just, yeah, left arrow. There we go. So if you hit the W key, and actually I'm sorry, W is the up key, so it should be or up arrow. So here if we hit the W key or the up arrow, then what needs to happen? And actually, I'm sorry guys, I'm completely doing the wrong ones. It's the A and D keys which rotate us. So it's the A key and the left arrow key. So if input.getKeyDown, keycode.A, or left arrow, then what needs to happen? Well, we need to set that bool to true for the bool that we created, right? So we'll go ahead and access our anim, and we'll say set bool. Now when we do that, what's the animation? We have an ID and a name. So we can use either one of these. We're going to use the name. So what was the name of the bool parameter that we created? It was turn underscore left. If you don't remember what you placed it as, just head back to your player, select your animator controller, double click it, and you'll see here that we have two parameters. We have layers, parameters, turn right, turn left. The parameter name must match exactly what you put here. So we're doing turn left right now. So it's turn underscore left, capital T, capital L. So here I'm saying set bool, turn left, and the value that it should be. And the value is true. Now, what happens if we were, what happens if we were holding down the A key and also tried to hit the D key? We would basically, it would fight, right? So what we want to do is if we hit the A key, we want to make sure that we set the turn right animation to false so that it goes back to idle for you to transition to your left. So we want to say here anim.setBool turn right, because you can't do both, right? So if you're turning left, then turn right must be false. And let's see here what errors I have. Oh, I'm missing a parenthesis. Okay. So this should be good. Let's go ahead and save this and test it out. Go ahead and run our game. And when I hit the A key or the left arrow key, you'll see here, our ship does indeed rotate. So we hit A over. Right now my ship is rotated, if you can see that. However, I did get an object reference set to an instance of an object. And let's see why I got that. Oh, okay. I believe that may be caused to disabling our title screen, perhaps? I'm not sure. Let's see. Object reference not set to an instance of an object. If we look at our player, everything is synced up here. We have our animator, we have our player animation script. I double click it, it takes me to my spawn manager. So let's look at our spawn manager here. Oh, okay, that's interesting. I have a, I don't know what that was. I had some weird script thing on there. Let's open up our game manager. Everything looks good there. Let's click on our spawn manager. Everything seems okay here. And here it says, well, game manager.gameover equals false. And let's see. So that means that we acted on the game manager before it found it. So looking at it, GameObject.find game manager. No, that's correct. Let's go ahead and rerun this. Okay, it is saying null reference set to an instance of an object. Huh. Why? Let's see here. My game manager. Object reference not set to an instance of an object. So usually we'll get this because the component we tried to access doesn't exist. Now I know that's not the case though, because I see that this is game manager. Interesting. I'm not sure why all of a sudden we're having problems here. Okay, so it looks like because I had the player prefab in there, it wasn't registering properly. Remember, we have to actually spawn the player in. So that's what was going on there. So let's go ahead, delete the player from the scene. Make sure you applied the prefab. Let's run our game. And we'll go ahead. And as you can see here, if I go left, whoops, I think I accidentally, I did not do it right away. Let's go ahead and retest that. Hit space key. If I go left or hit the A key, Now, no animation is playing, and I believe that's because I accidentally disabled the script. I did. So let me just go ahead and select my player. Make sure the script is enabled. Save scene. Let's go ahead and rerun it. And if I hit the A key or go left, you can see I do rotate, and I'm rotated. So now what we need to do is, if looking at our player here, I'm rotated to the left, we need to now check for an up key. So I go back to my idle. So if I release the A key or the left arrow key, then I go back to idle. So let's go ahead and create that. Looking at our player animation script here, we're going to go ahead and create similar logic. So if the A key is lifted, so here we'll have an if statement. If input dot get key down, key code dot left, whoops, sorry, key code dot A, and instead of get key down, we're looking for when you lift up. So we're going to say get key up. So if input dot get key up, we hit the A key. So if we lift the A key, or input dot get key up, and it's the left arrow. So key code dot left arrow. All right, what do we want to do in that case? Then we want to basically go ahead and say anim.setBool, and which animation do we want to turn false? The turn left, right? Because we're no longer turning left. So turn left gets set to false. And then we should be okay here because turn right would already be false. So I don't think we need to actually do anything else here. But also, I guess it wouldn't hurt if you wanted to add this guy here just to be sure. I guess just to be specific that when turn left is false, when you lift up A, turn right is also false. So it might be good to be precise here. All right, let's go ahead and save this. Run our game. And when I lift off the A key, and to really test this, I'm going to go ahead and do a few things. I'm going to pause this. I'm going to delete my spawn manager while the game's running so it won't save. And what I want to do now is I'm going to click on my player, and I'm going to set my speed to 0. So if we run this, you'll see here if I hit the A key, I rotate, and then I go back. I rotate, go back when I lift up. So that's working. So let's go ahead and create the other two. Let's save our script. So here, if we hit the A key down and if we hit the A key up, now we need to factor in the D key and the right arrow key. So here, and actually we could turn these probably into else if statements. So if A key is down, else if A key is up. Okay. And then here we'll have a new set of if statements checking for the D keys. So here, if our input.get key down and our key code is D key, or our input.get key down is key code.left.right key, right arrow, then what needs to happen? Very similar to what we did above. We need to grab our animator. We need to set a bool. And that bool is going to be turn right. And turn right needs to be true, which means turn left needs to be false. Turn left is going to be false. We'll save that. And real quickly, we can copy this else if from here. Or actually, we can just recopy that, turn it into an else if. All right, so here we have else if, input.get key up instead of down. Get key up. And what we want to do is say turn right equals false, turn left is false. Let's save this, hop back into Unity, and we should have a functioning animator controller that corresponds to our user input. Let's go ahead and run it. And here you go, I turn right, left, and there we go. We have all of our animations working. And now we can move on to our final polish item, which is going to be post-processing. I'll see you guys in the next video.